Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It's been a while, mashallah. During my SPM days, I used to burn out a lot. But now, as a college student, with a busier schedule and this YouTube thing to balance, I find myself burning out less. And if I do burn out, it will only last for a week. Here's three things to keep in mind if you want to avoid a burnout. First, you need to know that burnouts happens when you're mentally, physically, and sometimes spiritually exhausted. Although yes, reducing your workload is a viable strategy, but if you're like me and you can't afford taking a week off, especially during exam seasons, then you don't want to hear that. Instead of lowering your workload, you can just focus on resting properly. Don't use TikTok or Instagram during your resting period. Scrolling uses the brain, and if your brain is already mentally drained, then it will be drainer. Not an actual word, but you get my point. Play scrolling with sports, writing, or naps. I call this heavy resting. It's heavy because it takes a lot of time. For me, it's around 2 to 5 hours. Heavy resting happens when you're entirely done with everything you need to do for the day. That means you can do whatever you want and no one would give a but if you're only done with one task, then do something light, aka light resting. Light resting will take around 15 to 30 minutes, and it happens when you're done with your work block, word block. It's not supposed to last long, but it's supposed to get you ready for the next task. Examples are refilling your water bottle or doing chores. So, important note. Remember when I said burnout happens when you're mentally, physically, and sometimes spiritually exhausted? Yeah. If you finish doing a task that's mentally heavy, do something that's physically heavy. Examples: sports, cleaning. So, anyway, back to the importance of heavy and light resting. Because if you use the wrong one, best case scenario, you wasted your day. Worst case scenario, you face a burnout that will last for months. On a side note, totally unrelated, I was on my monk mode period. That means life is very unbalanced. For now. That means no gaming, no delayed praying, no junk food, and no mindless score. Blah, blah. But I visited my parents recently, and I'm in my parents' house as we speak, and my momentum was destroyed by that. I broke the rules of my monk mode, and when I got back to college and restarted my monk mode, I faced a burnout. What I learned from this is don't pull your punches. If you're working, work. If you're resting, rest. Basic knowledge, but whoop-de-doo. Monk mode lasts for 3 months, and after that you can rest for 1 month. That means go take it easy for 1 month. I'm not saying it's bad to treat yourself or don't visit your parents. You should visit your parents, but just know that you visiting your parents would risk your monk mode. Anyways, on with the video. To have a good deep work session, you have to have three pillars. And these pillars are planning, actions, and deadline. Let me go through it one by one. So, planning. During my SPM days, I had a horrible study plan. And the only thing that saved me was, alhamdulillah, my tutors. So, how did I go from mediocre student to getting perfect scores in my uni quizzes? Well, the answer is planning. It's that simple. Planning means you know what to do. 10 minutes of planning saves you 100 minutes of studying. So do your planning. The reason why my tutors was working and I got an A in my physics is because they had proper planning. On the other hand, if I studied by myself, I'm cooked. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Biggest dick. While making a plan, here's some things to note. Avoid being too specific because planning needs compromises. For example, if you're studying math, don't write a whole essay on what you need to do. Just have the main key points. Put it in bullet point forms. On the other hand, don't be too vague. Don't just put boom, study math. Okay. Understand the main point of you writing this plan in the first place, so you could take proper action. There's no point on planning if you're not gonna take actions. Same if you're watching this video. If you're not gonna take anything from it, then what's the just do something. Anything is better. Come on. The perfect condition to work is to just work. While I was writing for the script, right, I was in my pajamas and I just woke up and I'm writing away. Yeah, I just Englished. But Johan, it's too hard to get into flow state. Okay then, just sit down. Good? You've seated already? Right. Open your laptop. Just browse through the work you need to do. Just browse, don't do anything. I lied. Set a timer, just 10 minutes, and just do something for 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes. Pretty sure 10 minutes isn't enough for you. So, do 20 minutes. If 20 minutes is not enough, then do 30 minutes. If you did finish it in 20 minutes, then hey, not much to worry about. You got your work done and no stress. No stress. Yay! The point I'm trying to make here is getting to a flow state isn't difficult. The reason why it's difficult is because you believe it's so. If you believe that it's easy, then it will be easy. Just sitting down is easy, right? So just relate sitting down with flow state. That's all. That's how you get into a flow state. Either you believe that you can't or can, you are correct. Time to get to the third part, deadline. Take this seriously, because if you don't, this is the main cause for you to burn out. Without a deadline, what's the rush? The reason why the Pomodoro technique works is because you see how much time you're spending. You know how you have something to do, right? Like a project, and you push it and you procrastinate on it until the last day, and then on that last day, you finish the project. Bro, you could have just finished it when the teacher gave it to you. Yes, that's because you know you're running out of time, so you have to speedrun. Turn on the dream music, the dream speedrun music, and I'm a boo. The timer reminds you that either you're working hard or hardly working. I'll explain this part later. Damn, bro, who am I? Marcus Aurelius. Do you know why we have speedruns in the first place? The reason being is because it's our nature to get things done in the shortest amount of time. The less time you have, the more effort you have to put on. There's this quote, and that is, if you gave me 5 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 3 hours sharpening my knife. Okay, not knife, axe. There's a lot of misconceptions people have with productivity. So here are some common ones. Music makes me work harder. Some say that music makes you work harder, and others say they cannot concentrate while the music. Well, the way I see it is, music is a tool. Use it. I'm not saying one is better than the other. Okay, I kinda am, but let's be fair with this. I can only imagine two ways where music is useful. Number one is, well, doing mindless work like chores. Okay, not mathematics, okay? Respect mathematics. And another is to silence a louder noise. For example, here's a story. One time I went on a holiday with my family, and then I was getting some work done. I was typing for a video, and then my siblings were watching brain rot. I couldn't ask them to leave, or I leave myself, because number one, it's night. Number two, I don't have the luxury to ask them to leave. I ain't that rich. My solution to this was listen to music to blur out the noise that my siblings watch, so I couldn't hear their brain rots. Because at that point, music is a net positive, and it brings more help than harm. If you use music and it brings you a net positive, then yes, continue using it. However, if you use music and it's a hindrance to you, then stop. Just stop. I know it's uncomfortable to be surrounded by silence, but what's important is you get the things done. And you want that more than you want to listen to a Kanye album. I don't know why I mentioned Kanye out of all the artists. I've been listening to too much Graduation. Alright, next. More hours doesn't equals to being productive. In fact, it's the opposite. Imagine this. If two students were put in a library and they were the exact same students, it's just that their study time is different. Student number 1 studied for 10 hours, while student number 2 studied for only 2 hours. On paper, student 1 has a higher chance of succeeding. The day of the exam comes. Both students got a 95 on their paper. So, by default, both student won. But student 2 is the real victor. Student 2 had time for hobbies and friends. Meanwhile, student 1 is glued to his desk. Be more like student 2. It might be that student 2 is gifted, but I don't think so. I just think that student 2 is experience. He went through trial and errors to be truly productive. And if you ask me, I don't think student 1 is productive. Even though he studied for 10 hours, no. To me, that's not productivity. Productive is the least amount of hours spent to get one thing done. People like to compare how much hours they study. Like, oh, I studied for 8 hours. Oh, I studied for 20 hours. Oh, I studied for 100 hours. But to me, personally, I think it's better to compare how much you study divided by what's your results. But Johan, Alex Hormozy said to normalize 12-hour work weeks. I mean, work days. Or whatever. I think when Alex Hormozy said normalize a 12-hour work schedule, it means that he's working on something that's relatively big. Big means like something that will take around like 2 to 3 to 5 years, that's compressed to only months. That is why I think Alex Hormozy works for 12 hours, because he's compressing that time for a bigger project. At that point, yes, it's still considered as productive, but that is Alex Hormozy. He has hours, weeks, months, years of experience under his belt. What about us? For us, that's just starting out. 2 hours is enough for us. 2 hours of intensity is enough for us. If you do 2 hours of deep work daily, that's already amazing. For us to get like student 2 or Alex Hormozy, we need to increase our intensity. Think about it like gym. Once 10 kg becomes easy, you don't just increase the number of reps you do. No, you increase the intensity, because that is more efficient. It is more efficient for you to just increase your load rather than increase your repetition. If you're doing a study paper and the study paper is too easy for you, then do something harder. Exam papers this time. Doing 100 mindless tasks is only hard because it's tedious. So that means you're more prone to burnout. Number 3, multitask. Multitasking is not as good as people hyped it out to be. Sorry. The only time I use it is when doing mindless work, or I don't care about the results. It's like me making ice at the same time filling my water bottle. Okay. I don't care the shape of the ice that's made as long as the ice is made. I mean, at the end of the day, mate, it's gonna melt anyway, so why should I care? Another example is washing the dishes. While washing the dishes, I will put on my phone and then watch a Bloodborne playthrough. So then I would know how to play Bloodborne. So then I would know how to play Bloodborne properly. At the same time, I'm doing the dishes. Because I don't care if I'm good at Bloodborne. I only play because it's fun. Only use multitasking when you don't care about the results. But however, if it's something important to you, then best to avoid it. It may feel good for you, but it doesn't feel good for your results. It's like how Sam Ovens said it, and that is, you're going nowhere slowly. The reason behind this is because your efforts and your attention is spread thin. Therefore, everything you do either is mediocre or sloppy. It's better to just get one thing done with pure freaking focus and finish it within an hour, then just move on with the next task. That itself is better than doing 2 things at the same time that will take double, if not 10 times the amount of time. Another thing is, busy doesn't mean productivity. To me, okay, I'm gonna sound like a nut job, but to me, being busy means you're an idiot. And I don't mean that in the bad way. I am myself a busy person, but that's because it's my choice. Yeah, I have project assignments to get done, but I can get it done within 2 to 3 days. Easy. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Being always busy means you are bad at time management. There we go. Because with proper deep work, I promise you, with proper deep work, you can get it done within an hour. Just an hour. You actually sit down, focus, no distraction, just pure focus, and you're honest with yourself. Be honest, don't lie. Allah is watching. And work, I promise you can get it done within an hour, bro. As a recap, to avoid a burnout, you must first rest properly. That means no scrolling and knowing when to use heavy resting and light resting. Work properly. That means planning, actions, and deadline. And then lastly, don't fall for the productivity myth that I just discussed. That is all for me. Thank you. Thank you for watching. That's it. That's all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Don't forget to leave a like or subscribe. or both, that would be good. Yippee.